What is up, everybody? It is RD here once again, coming at you with unwatchable content and a video no one is gonna watch here at No One Watches RD. But if you are one of the no ones who does choose to watch RD, in today's video no one is gonna watch. It is more Eclipse related content, and it is titled EclipseQuake, which is earthquake and eclipse kind of merged together, although we didn't actually drop anything from the eclipse to make that amalgamation of words that became the title EclipseQuake. That is now the video you are watching, and with the events unfolding this morning, Friday the 5th of April in New York City on the northeastern seaboard of the United States, as well as news that late last evening over in Southern California, who both locations experienced 4.8 on the Richter scale earthquakes. Not so rare out in California, but certainly a very, very rare event and occurrence for New York City to be experiencing earthquakes. And it is, of course, apparently, by all accounts, the fourth earthquake that they have had in the space of this week. And these earthquakes do seem to be running in conjunction or in parallel with the eclipse that is about to unfold. And we've also heard as of today and over the course of the week that many states and counties and cities are declaring disaster prior to April the 8th's total eclipse. And I woke up this morning to hear news of an earthquake in New York, which led me to Google to type in eclipse could cause earthquake into the search bar to see what results I would find. And guys, I managed to find some very interesting results, as well as a video we will get round to watching in a little while that was actually released yesterday prior to the earthquake event this morning. But straight off the bat, the first thing that pops up when you type eclipse could cause earthquake in good old Google, the first thing that it does bring to you are the conspiracy. This is how I think Google would sound if it had a voice, although I do know it does have a voice, as that sort of built-in speech thing in the assistant that talks to you, but this is how I think Google should sound. Other conspiracy theorists spreading online claim that the eclipse could cause an earthquake. While the moon creates very subtle gravitational tides, it is nowhere near strong enough to trigger any seismic events. And that was what Google had to say straight away, just to warn us, there's conspiracy theories. You don't want to be believing anything you hear. But days before an eclipse, we've had two major 4.8 non-devastating earthquakes, I must add, in the United States of America, in New York. Lebanon was the epicenter over there in New York State. It did affect sort of Pennsylvania and some other surrounding areas, and over in Northern California, just north of Sacramento, they also had a 4.8 earthquake. And earthquakes have been very abundant in frequent over the last few days. We've had Taiwan, and apparently since this morning event in New York City, there have been further earthquakes on the Madrid fault line. We do got an article about that we will be coming to very, very, very shortly, folks. But this was what I wanted to do, really, was just show you what some of the stuff is coming up. So you can already see within the last sort of few minutes, 39 minutes ago, doomsday shake-up. Did the eclipse have anything to do with the earthquake? Monday's solar eclipse did not cause the earthquake today. Yeah, well, how can something that hasn't happened yet cause events to happen today? What an East Coast earthquake, solar eclipse, and a 2004 sci-fi movie share. That is something we will be clicking on. But as I say, guys, it's a little bit of a sort of effort, do it live, pre-recorded experience. I'm doing it live. You may be watching a live premiere, but the content isn't actually live. It is pre-recorded, but it's live enough for the sake of argument. From folklore to conspiracy, the history of solar eclipse, and these are all within the last couple of hours. So the internet is already ripe and rampant, and the narratives of eclipses and earthquakes being combined are in effect and being delivered. Solar eclipse will begin a massive human sacrifice event, says conspiracy theorists. So are we overacting? Are they leading us to behave and think these things? Are they suggesting these things to us so that then we sort of imagine them into reality, or psychosomatically experience some of these suggestions through the power of suggestions? Never underestimate the psychosomatic effect, or imagining things that don't really exist only because they serve some sort of purpose or agenda on a grand or even as small as a personal level. But 2017, not so recently, but the last time we did experience an eclipse rather, I can't read that, is it Tembient? My apologies, let me get my optical assistance. Why do I forget this all the time? But doesn't help. Temblor.net. Could a solar eclipse cause an earthquake? That was from August 21st, 2017. Business Insider, Monday's solar eclipse didn't cause the earthquake again today, and that was 3 hours ago. And again, it was only a few hours. If that was 3 hours ago, it was only a couple of hours removed from those tremor in New York City. So they were very, very quick to come to that conclusion. Total solar eclipse myths debunked, down to the University of Hawaii. When did that get is there a time date on there? Can't see there. Earthquake prediction and lunar eclipses. His basic idea is that an earthquake occurs sometime after the passage of a lunar eclipse in the area from which the eclipse is visible. The trouble is that the Phillyburbs, something local to my partner and synchronicities there. What an East Coast earthquake, solar eclipse, and a 2004 sci-fi movie share. So let's click on that one for the sake of it, as there is some local get away with me and your ad blockers. I'm ad blocking you to shit. Is that video referencing to the eclipse? I'm not going to click on it just in case it isn't. But 20 years ago, good old United Nations and their bigwigs largely ignored climatologist Jack Hall's warnings about environmental concerns until his research proved to be true. After an enormous superstorm developed, setting off natural disasters around the world. Are we on the verge of a superstorm? Is the superstorm already in effect in the early stages? Are we feeling some of the effects of that superstorm? SS there, folks, if you haven't rigged that out by yet. But among them, an earthquake followed by a solar eclipse, and then Manhattan wiped out by a flood. And this is from a movie. And yeah, there you go. Look, it was it the movie The Day After Tomorrow? Can't remember an eclipse being in that movie. Funny enough, but I do remember the movie, and I actually did used to own it. Okay, so that is the plot of the early 2000s sci-fi disaster movie. But this month we're on track with Friday's earthquake. We've had the Friday's earthquake in New York. That was only a few hours ago at time of recording. And the eclipse is due on Monday. So are the events of the day after tomorrow about to unfold? But they warned of the dangers of climate change. But the coincidence of a 4.8 magnitude earthquake and an eclipse taking place on April the 8th, which is another 4.8, and a solar eclipse has some people wondering if a big stream blockbuster has been foreshadowed. The future, much like episodes of The Simpsons TV show. I'm not sure what that's talking about there. Did I read that right? If a big screen blockbuster has foreshadowed the future, okay, I can see that. People are wondering if a big stream blockbuster has foreshadowed the future, much like the episodes of The Simpsons TV show. Predictive programming, guys. Fiction Decoded is something RD does best of all, I think, or one of the things I do best, and let's say that. But they're sharing us a few screenshots of tweets. 4.8 earthquake in New Jersey. Are you awake yet? 4.8 is when the eclipse is. 4.8. Omar Retamar Serrano posted on his Facebook page on Friday after the earthquake struck from its epicenter in Lebanon. Rare earthquake hits the northeast US. 4.8 before a 4.8 solar eclipse. So I guess these are some of the posts that are fueling these conspiracy theories that maybe the eclipse is causing earthquakes. But let's go down. There's another picture of a tweet or a Facebook post. Earthquake today, eclipse on Monday. We are ready for Jesus's return. Maybe it is Ragnarok about to unfold. Odin is gonna fall. Odin is gonna fall. New York earthquake is 4.8 and the day of the eclipse is 4.8. So they're sort of telling us what they need to think. Sometimes when they go to the extent of featuring tweets and posts in mainstream news articles like this, it suggests to me that this is the medic narrative being delivered. And how do Philly burbs decide what tweets to in Facebook posts to use in their articles, unless of course maybe these are bots that have been armed with bombs, and moments after the effect they are deployed across social media platforms to deliver mimetic narratives just as the ones we are seeing now. And am I as guilty for reacting to these events, eclipses and earthquakes that seem to be unfolding by making videos about it? Then only a handful of people choose to watch in, and even fewer of those people actually pay attention, as I do know there are a few folks that do just come here to say hello to each other over and over again until the next stream starts, where they go and repeat the process over and over again. But the article continues to say, no, there wasn't any earthquake. It was road work being done. I don't believe anything the news says anymore, one commentator wrote. And I did actually drop a video on Friday morning regarding the eclipse and some further announcements of other cities declaring an emergency. And I also did a live stream immediately after that about the earthquake alert live, and we heard interview with somebody who experienced the tremors, who multiple times in a 2-minute interview, maybe 6 or 7 times, mentioned how it sounded, felt like an explosion, and he repeated the explosion over and over again, and then confessed to the reporter that he only was aware that it was an earthquake once the emergency alert system on his phone was activated and informed him that it was an earthquake. So is it an earthquake? Is this some sort of highly advanced technology, weather warfare? Is it the results of the eclipse? Are they utilizing the eclipse to play with godlike technology that can create and cause wild weather scenarios, earthquakes, hurricanes, typhoons, dare I say it, tsunamis? So let's come out of that article and go down a little bit. Fact check from Newsweek. Do eclipses trigger storms, quakes along the path of totality? And Newsweek deemed that false. A little bit like on the Maury Povich. You are the father. You're not the father. Eclipses causing earthquakes is false. Washington Times, 2 hours ago, solar eclipse will bring massive human sacrifice event, says conspiracy theorists. And that's kind of interesting, and a very bold article headline from something like the Washington Times, and they wouldn't be printing it unless they wanted it to be read. So let us read that one. The solar eclipse will begin massive human sacrifice. We've already read that. But on the cusp of Monday's total solar eclipse, the internet is swirling with suggestions, including an impending massive human sacrifice. Despite the lack of credible evidence, these speculations have gained attention on social media platforms like Reddit. The predictions point to an anticipated catastrophe triggered by the new Madrid fault line. I did tell you guys we've got an article related to 5 quakes that have taken place on the Madrid fault line since, I believe, the earthquake in New York this morning. But a post gaining traction on the Reddit has fueled this rumor by overlaying the path of the 2017-2004 solar eclipses, which intersect near the new Madrid seismic zone stretching from Missouri to southwest. If you are a longer time serving regular offender here at Shit Video Productions and can remember to last week, we actually covered the X marks the spot factor regarding the eclipses alignments from 2017 and this one. And this is interesting, choose of word. If something were to trigger that fault line, something man-made, they could make it look completely natural. And this is a very, very plausible theory. And I'm very surprised that the Washington Times is running with this. This is a very, very bold article in this day and age under the act of Smith and Munt, the all-out propaganda agenda. This is probably one of the truer articles that you will come across. Although they're sort of blaming it on a conspiracy theory, are they telling us what we need to know here? Will this come back to be "we told you so"? And something I will point out to newer regular offenders, or regular soon-to-be regular offenders, RD and Shit Video Productions, my partner and I over at TSS, we have a track record for told you so. Don't say we didn't tell you so. But scientifically, the intersection of the cliff paths has no geological influence on fault lines. Similarly, the occurrence of a solar eclipse has no connection to triggering earthquakes, rendering the suggested scenario impossible. And just because it's impossible, it doesn't mean it's not going to happen. It's impossible for aluminum planes to penetrate solid steel objects. It's also impossible for jet fuel to burn hot enough to melt solid steel objects, but that's what they told us, and that is what the official story is. And we are also in the age of never seen before events and occurrences. Is that a video relating the videos relating the earthquake? I don't think it is. I said something about woke that caught my eye out of the corner of my eye as I was reading this article. But we know they have technology that is patented that can cause weather effects, and how difficult would it be to plant some explosives underground and detonate them during an eclipse, and say that the eclipse triggered some sort of weather cataclysm of events that resulted in earthquakes and flooding and widespread weather disasters. And don't forget, folks, last year, good old FEMA, our fine friends over there at the Federal Emergency Management Agency, conducted a multi-state natural disaster mass casualty scenario titled Frosty Force. Double F. So let's just click out of there, head back up to the top, refresh and go over to the news section. There was the Business Insider again. Monday's solar eclipse did not cause the earthquake today. Doomsday shake-up. Did the eclipse have anything to do with the earthquake an hour ago? So already, guys, you can see within a very, very short space of time, eclipse earthquake narratives are being delivered. And have I inadvertently, no I haven't, I thought for a second then I'd inadvertently closed down my screen recorder, but it was hiding in the search bar. So this is the article I was teasing you with, and this actually come out today, April the 5th, at time of recording, if you are watching subsequently. This might not be as contemporary as it is right now, and I'm doing this video pretty much about an hour or two after I finished my live stream on the earthquake. I run my errands, got what I needed to do out of the way, and come back and did a little bit more of investigating and scratching on the surface, possibly looking for some content for a potential TSS eclipse earthquake related stream to be aired at some time possibly before Monday, and then plans to come at you on Monday with an eclipse watch to see what happens. But this is from KHMOradio.com, and it's something to do with the Sean Hannity show. I wonder if you can listen to it or not. Let's not risk it. I will read away and try to add some animated narration to those of you who said that's something you enjoy about No One Watches RD. Some of you no ones who do watch RD, you must realize how much I do appreciate your viewership. But sudden swarm SS of 5 new Madrid, Missouri quakes, eclipse warm up, ? And this is from an individual named Doc Holiday. And I said it was published today, April the 5th, 2024, at time of recording. It goes, starts off to say that he is not a scientist, and he is not saying that eclipses and earthquakes are related, but he does find it interesting that a mini swarm of 5 quakes has just hit the new Madrid, Missouri area just days before Monday's historic total eclipse that will cross that region. And there is, I believe, a map of that area, and the dots are the 5 locations of those earthquakes to hit the Madrid fault line. But the USGS has confirmed there are at least 5 Madrid, Missouri quakes as of this writing. 2 happened early Friday morning, and there may be more now, but 5 is the total at the time of writing, and 5 of the total I'm aware of at time of recording. And he only wrote this article a couple of hours ago, and I'm reporting on it a couple of hours later, and I don't know if there's been any more incidences seen then. But none of these quakes were larger than 2.5 magnitude, with most too minor to be felt. But from small acorns, large oaks do grow, folks. And there they are. There was a 2.4. It was 6 kilometers south of Marston, Missouri. A 2.14 kilometers northeast of Carl's, that place in Missouri. 2.56 kilometers east northeast of Steele, Missouri. 5 kilometers southeast of Marston, Missouri. And there is also the times of the occurrences underneath. You can see the dates. So most of these, 4 of them were within the last 24 hours at time of recording, although a couple of those are just outside the 24-hour mark at time of recording, but close enough for argumentative sake. And one occurred on the 30th of March, so a few days ago, and that was in Arkansas. But back to the article, it says, could an eclipse cause a major earthquake in Missouri or anywhere else? Tremblor tried to answer this question 7 years ago during the last total solar eclipse. So there's 2 references now to 7 years ago we've seen. But the short answer is there is no science to corroborate the idea of what an eclipse could trigger a fault zone like New Madrid into a major earthquake event. It is possible the New Madrid could unleash a major quake, sure, but it's the same 10% chance in our lifetime that the USGS has mentioned previously, and not tied a total not tied to a total solar eclipse on Monday the 8th. Unrelated, but note that the New Jersey had a major 4.8 quake Friday morning too. There's also a 4.8 out in Northern California, something I addressed in the quake alert. But still, it is an interesting, curious coincidence. Is there any such thing as coincidence, or is everything accidentally on purpose? It is a curious coincidence, CC, that the New Madrid fault, which has been relatively quiet in 2024, would suddenly split out nearly half a dozen quakes in less than a couple of weeks, and in the majority of that case, those quakes have been in the last 24 hours. But we'll see what Monday holds when the big event happens in Missouri, where they telling us there are big events coming in Missouri, or are they just literally meaning that regarding the solar eclipse? And hopefully it's just a solar eclipse and not a major earthquake that makes the day memorable, guys. I don't know what's coming on. Is this Y2K? Are they telling us to beware? Earthquakes already are happening. We are in that 4-day countdown period to the total eclipse, the impact zone as it has been referred to. But here are some pictures of simulations. I'm not sure exactly what they are, of showing what would happen if a 7.7 hit the New Madrid fault line and caused an earthquake in Missouri. And there's some sort of pictures there. This simulation shows the real life effects of a 7.7 New Madrid quake centered in New Madrid, Missouri, which leaves the first effects of the first jolt. So there are some pictures there. I'm not going to read too much about this. It'd been interesting if they'd have put that in video form, but it looks like the 7.7 simulation is going to cause a little bit of destruction and devastation, it would seem. But let's read this last bit, because I think that is the final part of the article. That says the simulation shows the terror of a 7.7 New Madrid quake in Missouri. Even Oklahoma City, Oklahoma, and Chicago, Illinois feel the effect of this devastating quake. And I think the events at Oklahoma City back in 1995 were also felt on the Richter scale. Very powerful explosive from that U-Haul van. But what were we saying? They could feel the effects as far away as Chicago and Oklahoma City of this devastating quake that was running a simulation that could result in an estimated $300 billion in damaging, leaving 2.6 million households without powers. Thousands would lose their lives instantly. So there was that in an interesting little article that I found. No more articles, no more reading, although I'm sure I could go on for an awful lot longer searching through this and highlighting the stuff. But I do want you to see a video that was released yesterday warning that possibly an earthquake could cause an eclipse. No, the other way around, RD. An eclipse could cause an earthquake, and that was uploaded hours before an earthquake occurred in not only New York City and New Jersey, but also one out in Northern California.
In ancient times, the sky was seen as a perfect clock. Stars and planets moved along fixed trajectories, repeating the same movements yearly. Any change in this apparent harmony, it was believed, must also have effects on Earth. The sudden appearance of a comet or lunar and solar eclipses was particularly suspicious. It was regularly suspected that approaching comets caused earthquakes, especially large ones. Even today, many believe that the position of the Sun, Moon, and even the other planets in our solar system can cause earthquakes on Earth. However, part of this belief is absolutely to be excluded. The gravitational attraction of the other planets, even the largest, is indeed too weak to cause an earthquake, as demonstrated by the famous event in March of 1982, when all the planets aligned, or almost, relative to Earth without causing any effects. Not even if all the planets were aligned together could they influence the balance of our faults, not even the most sensitive ones. In short, the planets are too far away to cause trouble. But there seems to be some truth in the belief that the Moon can cause seismic activity. By studying the frequency of large earthquakes in Chile, California, and Japan, researchers have discovered that earthquakes greater than 5 are more likely to occur during the new or full moon when the sun, moon, and earth align. But wait a second. If this were true, it would mean that all the more reason a solar eclipse, a phenomenon for which the moon and sun must be perfectly aligned, could unleash the perfect storm, capable of disrupting the Earth's surface at its weakest points. And right now, while the entire North American continent is in feverish anticipation of the April 8th eclipse, a bunch of rumors have started circulating based on these evaluations, suggesting the possibility that the cosmic event could even destabilize the balance in the so-called New Madrid Fault, with the consequent devastation of a territory that experienced the fury of a very violent earthquake many years ago. And wouldn't you know it, the earthquake in the winter between 1811 and 1812 was preceded by a total solar eclipse, and also by another particular astronomical phenomenon that is also recurring. Just a coincidence?
Audio Jungle.
The year 1811 began with a spectacle that not many humans are lucky enough to see in their lifetime. A great comet was sighted in March of 1811. Initially faint as it approached the sun, its intensity increased more and more rapidly, so much so that some records report that it had a tail more than 30 degrees long and a head larger than the disk of the sun. Its brightness reached its peak in October of 1811, when it certainly became the most spectacular comet ever seen in human memory. It was still pre-scientific times for much of the world's population, and the appearance of this extraordinary object, which was the same comet described by Tolstoy in War and Peace, was a cause for great concern. What great misfortunes would it bring? In Europe, it was already announcing the invasion of Russia by Napoleon's troops, and to increase fear in North America, on September 17th of the same year, the United States, including the New Madrid region, a town located in the southeastern part of Missouri, was affected by an impressive annular solar eclipse. Coincidence or not, 2 months later in mid-December, the first of 3 extraordinary earthquakes struck the Midwest and southern United States. An invisible force gripped the entire central Mississippi Valley and did not loosen its grip for weeks. A series of large earthquakes caused the riverbed to rise and fall as if it were a stormy sea. On December 16, 1811, at 2 in the morning, the first shock hit what is now the southern appendix of the state of Missouri. Residents woke up feeling furniture bouncing and porcelain plates shattering. Houses were shifting from their foundations. People poured into the streets and remained there, trembling from the cold and the aftershocks. Their once quiet and safe homes had suddenly become dangerous. In the hours leading up to dawn, the earthquake continued to tremble, albeit with less intensity. At around 7 o'clock, there was another violent shock. Then, around 11, there was another even stronger one. Holes opened up in the ground, from which mud, water, and coal gushed forth. Sulfurous gas emanated from underground, contaminating the air with its foul smell. Less intense tremors continued until January of 1812. On the morning of January 23rd, around 9 o'clock, another strong earthquake struck. But it wasn't over yet. The disaster continued to strike the region. On February 7th, 1812, before dawn, the restless sleep of the inhabitants of that area was again interrupted by tremendous seismic waves. This earthquake, more violent than all the previous ones, was so strong that the fury of the earthquake poured onto the river city of New Madrid. Already the tremors of 1811 had severely damaged the small town, killing several inhabitants and forcing the majority of survivors to leave. The shock of February 7th was the final blow. When the earthquake struck, the remaining people fled, barely making it out in time. The elevated bank on which the city stood crumbled and slid into the Mississippi, where the turbulent waters swept away the boards, bricks, and stones of New Madrid. In a short time, there was no trace left of the city. The earthquakes caused temporary waterfalls on the river near New Madrid, capsizing dozens of boats. The February 7th shock lifted and sank the ground, forcing the flow of the Mississippi to reverse. Huge chasms opened beneath the river, creating whirlpools that sucked in other boats. The earthquakes altered the course of the river, flooding towns and swaths of land. Additionally, they diverted the waters, giving rise to Reelfoot Lake in Tennessee, which did not exist before 1812. The tremor lasted for 15 minutes, and needless to say, even brick and stone houses collapsed to their foundations for miles around. St. Louis and Louisville suffered severe damage. Aftershocks tormented the area for days. Out of a population of about 15,000 inhabitants in the affected area, more than 1,000 people were killed, and at least 5,000 found themselves homeless. The still young United States had never experienced a disaster of such magnitude. Hang on, guys, before we continue. Be sure to join the Insane Curiosity channel. Click on the bell. You will help us to make products of even higher quality. It's not possible to establish the exact magnitude of these earthquakes, as seismographs did not exist in 1812, but scientists estimate that at least 3 of the new Madrid earthquakes measured on the Richter scale would have had a magnitude greater than 8. These are the most intense earthquakes ever observed in the continental United States, and globally rank among the strongest ever recorded. But those who suffered the most from these earthquakes were the Native Americans, and we have no good census of them, but they were far more numerous than the white settlers, so there were probably several thousand Native Americans living in this region. Where Helena, Arkansas stands today, there was a tribe, and during the earthquakes, the ground sank, flooding their village, and not everyone survived. Many drowned near Osceola, Arkansas, and there was a second Indian village that they were aware of that sank into the ground. Unfortunately, there is practically no written history of what the Native Americans experienced during this horrible natural disaster. Local Indians had an oral history of great earthquakes occurring within the memories of their elders, but geologists say that no one in their tribes would have ever experienced anything remotely similar. Okay, this is the account of what happened more than 2 centuries ago, but why are so many people now afraid of the possibility that it could happen again now? Well, it essentially comes down to 2 things: a rational suggestion and probabilistic assessment. Let me explain further. The suggestion comes from the fact that the earthquakes of 1811-1812 were preceded by celestial phenomena that have always been perceived as signs of misfortune. Over 2 months, in September and October of 1811, a blazing comet and a curious annular solar eclipse materialized in the sky over the central eastern United States. Terribly unusual and threatening things for those who did not yet have a clear understanding of the scientific concept of the solar system. Something unpleasant, therefore, had to necessarily happen, and indeed shortly thereafter, the wrath of God, or who knows what else, came to disrupt the lives of those poor souls. Well, whether you believe it or not, the same celestial signs from 2 centuries ago are once again materializing over North America. In just a few days, on April 8th, the so-called total solar eclipse of the century will occur, with the shadow cone crossing Mexico, the United States, and Canada, also passing over the territories of New Madrid, devastated by the earthquakes of the early 19th century. An extraordinary eclipse with totality in some parts of North America exceeding 4 minutes. But today we lack the comet, somebody among you will say. And yet, no, because there will be one. In fact, the Pons-Brooks comet is already moving in the sky, a lot less brighter than the Great Comet of 1811, but still visible to the naked eye. And there's much more. The Pons-Brooks comet is a periodic one that approaches the Sun and the Earth about every 70 years, which means that in the winter of 1811-1812, 3 orbits ago, the Pons-Brooks was shining, along with the other one, above the ruins left by the earthquakes. A truly fantastic coincidence, don't you think? So that's about the suggestions. As for what pertains to probabilistic assessment, people convinced that an earthquake will surely follow the eclipse of April 8th are based on the fact that not a few scientists estimate that in New Madrid, an earthquake of magnitude greater than 7.5 on the Richter scale could occur every 200 to 300 years, and many therefore point out that 223 years have already passed since 1811. Seismologists also calculate a probability of 25 to 40% that another severe earthquake, magnitude 6 or higher, will occur in the New Madrid seismic zone by 2040, with significant damage and loss of life. So, putting the 2 things together as we await the eclipse, the catastrophic drift is mounting more and more on social media. Okay, but what do the experts say? Do they deny it and laugh it off? Well, not all of them. The majority are obviously against it, but some admit that there may be some kind of relationship between the perfect alignment of the moon and the sun and the imbalance of a fault capable of triggering seismic activity. The alignment, according to some, can put a strain on fault systems located along the path of the lunar shadow, such as the region of the New Madrid Fault. The effect is, as researchers also admit, extremely weak and more likely to act only on shallow faults. Only one earthquake out of 10,000 occurring during a period of increased tidal stress will be influenced and ultimately significantly increase in magnitude. So although there remains a tiny percentage of risk, it is very unlikely that the great eclipse of April 8th will bring death and destruction, but only wonder of a miracle of nature that periodically returns to give us emotions. Just that, and nothing more.
North Texas County issued a disaster declaration to try to prepare for the solar eclipse. Hello, I'm Steve Eager.
Hello, everybody. I'm Heather Hayes. So Kaufman County is expecting visitors from all around the world for what really should be a celebration, unless the crowds overwhelm county resources. Fox 4's Stephen Dial joining us now live. Stephen.
You know who's not mad right now? Hotel owners. Virtually every hotel in Kaufman County is completely booked up to the solar eclipse and after it, at least the day after. All of that's happening as emergency officials are doing their final preparations.
There's been a lot of buzz, and it started a couple months ago.
It's something most North Texans will only see once in a lifetime. Kaufman and Terrell are in the center point of totality for the April 8th solar eclipse, with an estimated 200,000 people coming, more than doubling the county's population. Emergency officials issued a disaster declaration.
The biggest thing is we don't know what to expect because we've never done this.
The disaster declaration can help bring in state resources if needed. Steve Huey is the head of emergency management for Kaufman County, and he's concerned about traffic levels.
And on the day of, we don't know where they're going to be, whether it's in a parking lot or sitting on the side of a highway. And that's one of our fears is if they're on the side of a highway, what can happen then?
Hotels and RV lots are sold out. While you can find cows in the county, emergency management will have a few cows of their own. Cow meaning cell on wheels to boost phone service.
Where are you going to watch it?
From my front yard.
In Terrell's downtown, businesses are ready as well. Barbara Booth owns the Screen Door. They have Eclipse t-shirts and other merchandise.
And we expect it to be more than just a one-day thing with travelers coming in, and we're really pumped. We're hoping for the best, but kind of at the same time overwhelmed by the possible numbers and how you negotiate that.
For the next North American solar eclipse in 2033, totality will only reach Alaska. Then in 2044, Canada and North Dakota. A once-in-a-lifetime experience for Texas, just days away.
But everybody else is excited about it, but, you know, I'm kind of a little bit excited, too, to see everybody come through, to go and see it and everything.
Now, Buc-ee's in Terrell is another hot spot that people go to just on a normal day. We're told that the gas station, the huge gas station, is going to fill all their tanks to capacity next Friday and hopes to have enough supply for all the people who will be in town. Buc-ee's also is selling solar eclipse glasses, but they told us they're not putting them on the shelves until Friday.
All right. Yeah, and you know they're a lot more than just a gas station, Stephen. And what's really also cool about Buc-ee's is I think they gave school students across the state, they gave them glasses.
Yes.
So that was really pretty awesome.
We're just 4 days away from the great American solar eclipse, and right now people in its path are racing to prepare for all of the incoming crowds that this is about to bring in. The path of totality carving right through the central and northeast United States, from Texas to Indy, New York to Maine, with hundreds of thousands of people expected to head to communities big and small all along the track. officials are scrambling to figure out traffic and accommodations, logistics for this thing. Stephanie Haynes joins us live from Kaufman, Texas, right near Dallas along that path. Stephanie, I know you spoke with community leaders. What's their game plan here for getting prepared?
Yeah, Marky, good morning. To put it simply, it is all hands on deck because where I'm standing right now, they have about 4 minutes of totality. So this makes it the premier location to watch the eclipse. And they are expecting 200,000 people to arrive here in Kaufman County, roughly doubling the population in just a few short days over this weekend. And that sort of population increase can really put a massive strain on emergency and law enforcement services for a smaller county like this. And hence, that's why they gave out that disaster declaration, which sounds intense, but really what it does is it makes available to authorities the ability to pull in extra resources, extra people, extra technology to help boost cell service, or even issue a curfew if things get out of hand.
Resources covers everything from law enforcement, fire departments, EMS, personnel, and equipment, their vehicles to respond. We can request additional DPS, highway patrol support.
Texas Highway Patrol saying they expect 1 million visitors throughout the state, which means potential gridlock on major thoroughfares like I-35. You can see here at least 8 counties have issued disaster declarations, the majority in the central part of the state, including Travis County, which includes Austin. And at last check, officials there say hotels are at 77% occupancy, rental cars, though, at 100% booked at the Austin airport. And then 30 miles away from me in Dallas, one of the biggest cities in the path of totality, city leaders announcing 99% of hotels in the central business district are sold out. Hertz, the rental car company, is telling AAA that bookings are more than 6 times higher now than they were last year.
We need to ensure that our first responders can respond to emergencies and make their way to local hospitals.
And so what does that mean for the people who live in the path of totality, the residents here? Officials say, listen, stay home. Watch this incredible event from the comfort of your own sidewalk if you can. But be prepared. There's going to be a lot of traffic, as we keep saying. Maybe stock up on gas and stock up on food for a few days. And then, Marky, the biggest and most important thing that we are watching right here in Texas is the weather, which the National Weather Service at last check says it's gonna be cloudy. But we are still a few days out, so we're crossing our fingers, Marky.
I was just going to say, cross my fingers. I'm finding all the wood to knock on this morning that that cloud coverage moves right on out of the way. Stephanie Haynes, thanks so much. This is going to be awesome.
Thanks for watching, everybody. Go to joinnn.com to find News Nation on your television provider. Also, don't forget to click that red subscribe button below to get more of News Nation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.
Out in front of Monday, the city of Killeen is now declaring a state of disaster, all in preparation for large crowds expected to come during the eclipse. Mayor Debbie Nash King said the decision is a preemptive measure that will help prepare emergency responders and allow them access to more resources all ahead of time. Bell County has already called for a state of emergency ahead of next Monday's eclipse. They and Bosque County are the only 2 counties to have done this so far at this point.
Well, new tonight, the city of Kerrville is issuing a disaster declaration ahead of the Great American Eclipse.
Yeah, I thought this was interesting. City officials are calling it a precautionary measure. They say the declaration will make it easier for the city to apply for federal relief funds in the event of an emergency. Officials say there will be a significant amount of visitors beginning this weekend. They're actually expecting more than 100,000 people.
Well, it's hard to imagine. It could cause traffic jams, possible food shortages, and enormous strains on first responders. The declaration will be in effect for 7 days.
Well, next up, it's Coryell County, who has issued a local disaster declaration all ahead of the solar eclipse on Monday. The county is expecting up to 200,000 visitors. That would cause a real burden on the infrastructure there. Disruption of cellular and internet services as well, and grocery and fuel shortages can be expected. Residents are urged to have sufficient food and groceries for days leading up to and post the big event. The county offices will also be closed on April the 8th. This goes into effect tomorrow morning at 6 a.m.
Well, just 6 days until the total solar eclipse. And this afternoon, Austin and Travis County leaders will give an update on how the city and county are preparing for the eclipse as an increase of visitors and traffic are expected. They'll also discuss how to watch the eclipse safely and let us know where places we can go to watch it safely. More than a dozen school districts have canceled classes that day, and several Central Texas cities have issued disaster declarations for the upcoming eclipse. That means all city offices will be closed. People are encouraged to be mindful of extra traffic and to get supplies like groceries in advance. And something to keep in mind while you're watching the eclipse, bluebonnet etiquette. While you look up at the sky, don't forget to look at your feet. Bluebonnets are in full bloom. If they're trampled, there's a chance fewer will return next year. So here's some ground rules to protect the seed pods. First, don't pick them. Leave the flowers for everyone to enjoy. Step around the flowers if you can. And if you're laying a blanket down to watch the eclipse, choose an area away from the bluebonnets. By June, bluebonnet seed pods will brown, open up, and fall to the ground, but they won't grow to that point if the stems break or get
While Central Texas is no stranger to events that draw large crowds, an upcoming celestial occurrence could outdo them all.
Frankly, the solar eclipse is a big one. It's a ton of community-wide events being hosted all at once and a ton of visitors being welcomed all at once.
Ahead of the total solar eclipse on April 8th, We Are Blood is asking for donations. It's all precautionary, but being prepared is priority. And with the amount of visitors, they want to make sure stockpiles are sufficient.
We're also expecting higher levels of traffic, which can impede our ability to deliver necessary blood products to the hospitals.
So they're communicating with hospitals in their network now to deliver that blood ahead of time just in case. Also working with EMS in both Travis and Williamson counties, so they'll have supplies on hand to treat people in the field if needed. Ahead of the eclipse, they're asking for more than 200 donations. The biggest need, O-type blood and platelet donations. And while a large event like this takes more planning and preparation, it also serves as a reminder of a need that never goes away.
But it also, I think, is revealing about the hidden world of the need for blood transfusions and the reliance on blood donors that we experience every day in our community.
In less than a week, Central Texas will be in the path of totality for the upcoming solar eclipse on April 8th.
We get a front row seat and the best view of this wonderful historic event.
Officials are expecting over 1 million people to visit the state of Texas to see the eclipse unfold in person. Travis County leaders have already issued a disaster declaration to ensure first responders are able to better manage what's to come.
We are preparing for visitor impact similar to the scale of what we would normally see over a weekend of F1 or the Spring Festival.
This is just a precaution, the whole disaster declaration, to make sure our first responders and public safety officials are able to better manage traffic and crowds as we anticipate more people in the unincorporated areas of Travis County than normal.
The eclipse is expected to start around noon April 8th with totality around 1:46. TxDOT is expecting traffic and a lot of it.
Here in Austin, I-35, SH-71, US 290, US 183, our major corridors could see gridlock. And because the Hill Country is a prime spot for viewing, they could see standstill traffic as well.
TxDOT crews will be on the road that day to ensure traffic is moving to some degree and fix any issues that pop up. If you plan to drive, get on the road early or after the eclipse. But if you can't, be safe.
Drive with your headlights on. Make sure that other drivers see you, and look out for pedestrians who may be preoccupied with eclipse activities. Keep your eyes on the road and not the eclipse. And I can't believe I've got to say this, but do not drive with your eclipse glasses on. It is dangerous and you can't see anything anyway.
Central Texas is in the path of totality, so you don't have to go far. Austin Public Library will host watch parties at 9 of their locations. Parks will also be a great spot to view the eclipse. UTS provided 12 telescopes with solar filters for public use. Those will be available at the parks listed on your screen.
We're lucky here that almost everyone in the city, no matter where they are, no matter what their resources are going to have an opportunity to experience this.
Big and small are preparing for the eclipse on Monday, and as of today, we've got our first East Texas county declaring a disaster for the weekend of the event. Our Dan Millay checked in with Van Zandt County tonight and has more.
We've seen multiple North and Central Texas cities declare city or countywide disasters ahead of the eclipse this weekend. Now Van Zandt County becomes the first in East Texas to make that call. Van Zandt County sees its fair share of tourists with Canton's first Monday trade days, but Judge Andy Reese told me that the county's main concern is people trying to get in and out of town on Interstate 20.
Our concern is that if the delays, those kind of delays occur on I-20, that it's going to be some serious issues. And by declaring a disaster, it relaxes some of the rules and regulations that first responders have to adhere to on a normal basis.
The declaration made by the county is a preventative measure. It ensures the county will have enough emergency personnel should they need extra help with the anticipated influx of travelers coming through the interstate.
The first part of this year, we have had multiple occasions of road rage on I-20. And that's during a normal day.
Something else that's a big concern for East Texans, cell service on Eclipse Day. People along the path of totality will be taking pictures. They will be sending them to all their friends. And the hopes are that East Texas's network will be able to support that.
Our network has drastically changed since our last eclipse that we had in 2017.
Since that 2017 eclipse, AT&T told me they've upgraded its network from 4G to 5G, which will provide extra support for those living in East Texas and those just passing through to catch a glimpse of history.
To put it into perspective for you, 4G was like driving on the freeway, and now 5G is like driving on the Autobahn, which is more lanes, more speed, and less cars along the way.
They don't anticipate any outages or loss of service during the big event. In Tyler, Dan Millay, CBS 19.
Hello, I want to thank the members of the media for being with us today. We are continuing to count down the days to the total solar eclipse. It's now just 1 week away. It will be on Monday, April 8th. Public safety continues to be our top priority, and today we have some important eclipse-related announcements. And joining me today are the Commissioner of the Department of Public Works, Nate Martin, First Deputy Police Commissioner Al Wright, and Captain Marcus Rogowski from the Buffalo Police Department, Emergency Services Manager Thomas Luby, Fire Commissioner William Ronaldo, and Parking Commissioner Ray Wagner. With Buffalo in the path of totality, Buffalo has the best seats in the house to view the eclipse in just a few days. We expect a record number of out-of-town visitors to start arriving in Buffalo to view this rare event, and it's going to get really busy in our city. Today we are announcing that Buffalo City Hall will be closed next Monday, the day of the eclipse. This decision is part of the city's comprehensive approach to eclipse preparedness, which includes traffic management strategies, enhanced emergency response capabilities, and community engagement activities. By closing city offices during the eclipse, we hope to minimize traffic congestion. In addition, trash and recycling pickups in Buffalo will be delayed by 1 day during the week of the eclipse. There will be no collections on Monday, April 8th in Buffalo. Pickups scheduled on Monday will be made on Tuesday, and so on throughout the week. Also, there will be no bulk trash pickup in the Ellicott Council District on Monday, April 8th, but it will resume on Tuesday, April 9th. Parking rules will be strictly enforced on Monday, April 8th. Public parking must be in legally designated spaces only. We are asking motorists not to park on the grass throughout the city, including grassy areas at parks and museums. In addition, Please don't block fire hydrants, crosswalks, or driveways throughout the Eclipse event. Digital messaging boards, like the one you see here behind us, are now going up in strategic locations throughout the city to further inform residents about the eclipse. With crowd estimates of 500,000 to 1 million people converging on the Buffalo area, we're asking residents to take this event seriously. If people are viewing the events from their homes, you will be happy to know that there is no bad vantage point to view the eclipse in the city of Buffalo. Now, there are a few other things that we want people to be mindful of and prepared for. Be sure to get a special pair of eclipse glasses. It's important to wear proper eyewear while viewing an eclipse. Get all of your errands done in advance. This includes going to the grocery store and picking up prescriptions. On the day of the eclipse, because of the anticipated traffic that will be in the city, it might take a lot longer to do any necessary errands that you might have. So we're asking people to do those things before Monday. Do not wait until Monday if you need prescriptions or if you need grocery items for your home. Be aware that cell service on the day of the eclipse is expected to be greatly affected. The best way to stay informed about the eclipse, city residents should text ECLIPSE to 38276. Again, that's text ECLIPSE to 38276. Again, we're asking residents to take this event seriously. Much like a snowstorm, we want people to be prepared in advance. And here, with more information, is Department of Public Works Commissioner Nate Martin.
Thank you, Mayor. As the Mayor said, the video messaging boards, the one behind me, are going up. We've been in coordination with county, state officials through NITAC, and so our message boards are really mirroring what we as a collective group of municipalities and government leaders are putting in place. So ours are going to be going up as well, and again, those will be right in line with what you're seeing on the Thruway and other major roadways. So the Mayor mentioned the stoppage of service for one day, a delay of one day on sanitation recycling. So we coordinate with that with our partners. So Monday's pickup will not occur, as the Mayor said. That will be Tuesday. Tuesdays will be Wednesday. Wednesday will be Thursday. So everybody's pickup next week will be pushed back one day. And again, we're asking you put out bulk trash as normal per the schedule in the Ellicott District, but we will not pick up on Monday, picking up on Tuesday. Again, our goal is to eliminate as much of that traffic that, from our perspective, that could be on the streets. So, we'll ask for the cooperation on that standpoint. The Mayor mentioned parking on grass. From our parks perspective, our parks are open to be enjoyed by the residents. I know encourage people to walk to those, but if you go to a park, if you drive to one, please do not park on the grass. Do not park on the fields. Use the designated parking areas. We'll have staff, and Olmsted will have staff in their major parks to facilitate some conversations, but we just ask to protect our parks. And if you bring things in, if you're going to spend a little bit of time, please don't leave garbage in the parks. What you bring into a park, please take out with you as well. From a street perspective, we're stopping all road construction projects that might be occurring that day on the major thoroughfares, so we won't have any traffic lane blockages. Again, our goal is to keep traffic flowing, so any road projects that are on those major thoroughfares, we will pause those during the eclipse Monday, Tuesday, and those will be picking up on Wednesday. So a few things from our perspective just to make sure we're on the same page. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Martin. Next, we'll get an update from the Buffalo Police Department. Presenting that update will be Captain Marcus Rogowski.
The police department has been partnering with law enforcement on the federal, state, and regional levels to ensure that our resources are pooled and to plan ahead to make sure that the eclipse is a safe, fun event for everyone. Safety at large events truly is a team effort, and the general public is the most important part of that team. We urge you, if you see something, say something. We need the public to use 911 and our non-emergency phone number, 716-853-2222, appropriately. It's anticipated that traffic in and around the eclipse will be highly congested. In Buffalo, we pride ourselves that we can get anywhere in 20 minutes. Unfortunately for this weekend, that's not going to be the case. If you are going out, plan ahead. If your event requires a ticket, get those now. Leave early and plan on staying late. The safest and probably the most fun place to view the eclipse will be your own home. If you can see the sun on a normal day, you'll have a great view of the eclipse. Your family will be able to view the eclipse from home with little to no work and effort. Thank you, sir.
Next, we'll hear from the city's Emergency Services Manager, Thomas Luby.
Good morning. The task force is still continuing to work with our regional partners, fine-tune it, being meticulous, optimizing our preparedness, and making sure we have our communication link among all our partners on the crucial day of the April 8th. The anticipated viewers that are coming in here has increased significantly, and it contributes to the fact that the city of Buffalo is fortunate to be the center line of the eclipse in itself. Longer duration than most, so we have it's 2.5 times longer than it was in 2017. Schools are taking, and other academic institutions have taken advantage of this as for the educational point, and then to inspire scientific curiosity as an educational. And the next chance to see this will be 20 years later. So everyone's going to be optimizing this. You're going to start to see traffic getting a little busy on the roadways coming in around Thursday is what they're anticipating. So around Thursday, the traffic should start getting a little bit heavier. The weather forecasters have given early indicators where the conditions are going to become more favorable for viewing, which means that there'll be less of a cloud coverage. So things are looking up. The temperature is looking good. It's at the 50s right now, but it's anticipated to go up a little higher based again on the forecasters. The cell phone carriers have reassured the city of Buffalo's Eclipse Task Force that they have their systems, cell sites can handle the additional overload or additional capacity. They've done tweaking to their systems. Just remember, always use, during the cell sites, when they do go down, always use, whether it's a disaster or another type of incident, always use the text versus the actual cell, because you're waiting on the cell. Someone could be streaming it until you get an extra line of the cell site to be open. The text will still go through, so part of that family communication plan that you would have normally, right? And then just stay attached to the eclipse, as the mayor suggested. This way you'll keep informed of what is going on in the city and apprised of what is happening and whatnot. Thank you.
Thank you. That sound that you just heard was the Buffalo Fire Department alerting you to the fact that the Commissioner of Fire will be the next speaker, Commissioner William Ronaldo.
Thank you, Mayor. Morning. I'm thinking that horn is stuck, so we'll get into that. We'll cover that. So I know a large volume of information has been put out over the last several weeks. There's just a couple points that I want to make. One new point and reiterate a previous point that we made a week or so ago. So I want to remind everyone of the city ordinance against open burning. There is no open burning allowed within the city limits. And when I say open burning, that means fire pits and things of that nature. Once again, not allowed within the city limits. I know a lot of folks are going to have gatherings, whether their own backyard or some other public place, or maybe the neighbor's yard, things like that, and they may be tempted to have a fire pit to add to the ambiance and things of that nature. So please cooperate when it comes to that. We've got to free up our crews and our apparatus to respond to more serious emergencies instead of a call like that, so odor of smoke and things of that nature. Second point, which we spoke about before on the EMS front, as far as please make sure if you take any daily medication that you have that medication on your person, because you may be stuck, and there's a good chance you may be stuck in traffic, in a vehicle or at your viewing place, wherever you chose to view the eclipse from. Okay, so, and there may be a delay in EMS response as well. We're hoping that's not the case, but there always is a chance that it could be. So have that medication. If you take any daily medication, make sure you have that actually on your person, in your vehicle, or at your viewing location. So thank you. And I'll be followed by, I believe, Commissioner Wagner from parking.
Yeah, just as a reminder to everyone, kind of what Mayor Brown and Commissioner Martin had said, please do not block fire hydrants, crosswalks, driveways. There is no parking on the grass throughout the city. You may notice some signs that we're going to put up in certain areas. Albright Knox will have one, Furman Boulevard, and as well as Olmsted Park. But again, can't stress it enough, please don't park on the grass, and when you're traveling, just make sure you're traveling safely during this event. Thank you.
We'll now open up for any on-topic questions that the members of the media have.
Mayor, how are emergency resources like EMS, police, and fire, are those being pre-positioned in certain areas to respond quicker given the congestion that's expected? You know, what are the plans for that?
I'm going to have our fire commissioner respond to that.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, and we are working closely with AMR, our contracted ambulance service, and other agencies and departments, specifically the Buffalo Police Department as well, to make sure, I think I mentioned previously, make sure we have freedom of movement, the roads are clear, and we're able to get where we need to go when we need to get there. So I mentioned earlier there could be a delayed response, but we are really planning for the worst, hoping for the best. And Buffalo Police Department will be key in keeping these avenues open for us. So thank you.
And Buffalo Police Captain Rogowski will respond to that as well.
As part of the planning that's been taking place over the last couple of months, we've worked to identify staging locations so we can have a portion of each of our resources available in each part of the city. Yes, ma'am. I'm very proud to say that in the planning leading up to the eclipse, we've relied on resources from all levels of government. Representatives from various different government agencies have been part of our planning, and I'm even more proud to say that we work together quite well in Erie County and in the city of Buffalo.
Mr. Luby, or Mr. Mayor, what are the early estimates of people who are coming into the city? How many people can we expect to see? I know we've been given a general figure, but in terms of hotel accommodations, are we all sold out? I mean, what do you expect to see here?
Yeah, I'll let Captain Rogowski speak to that in a moment, but we know that all of the hotels in the city of Buffalo are sold out. Looking at past events like this, is where the number of 500,000 to 1 million people comes from. I don't know if there are more specific numbers, but I'll have Captain Rogowski respond to that.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Based on reports from previous eclipses, we are looking at the potential to double the population in and around the Western New York area. It really is an event that is drawing people and fans from all over.
And so maybe, Mr. Luby, can you talk then, how do you prepare from an emergency response standpoint, emergency management, to handle double the population of Western New York and perhaps even the city of Buffalo?
Well, you work with the expertise of the fire department, the police department, and neighboring jurisdictions so that you break up the city into geographical and functional areas. And then based on that, you have a certain set component of what would be responded in those areas and whatnot. And then if we needed mutual aid or anything like that, we can bring it in. So the object is that this is all the stuff that will be happening behind the scenes, where the resources can move around and go after and attend to whatever they have to do. So we plan looking at it from the tactical perspective, right, on the ground level, how we're going to get to service, whatever we have to do. And then we look at it from the strategic side, the overview of the city itself and then neighboring partners, how we would address it, and then we just dial it down. So, you know, it's a combination of strategic and tactical response. And then how do we get that? How do we optimize in our resources? We don't want to use all our specialties, whatnot. How do we offset some of those skill sets through other things, and who can help us out? How do we develop task force or strike teams going into the situation? And then again, the bottom line comes down to the commanders and the officers that are on the scene requesting and using the resources and the allocation of resources for what they need and don't, because you might have to anticipate there'll be a delay of getting that backup, so to speak, right? So a real good scene size up, report of what's going on, what's happening, and everything like that will help drive what resources are really needed. So the task force, the Eclipse Task Force, the city's Eclipse Task Force, we broke it into 3 sections. We broke it into in the pre-response or pre-planning, which is currently going on right now. This is where some of the resources are being deployed. We're setting up various barriers. We're going through fine-tuning the documents, fine-tuning and being meticulous and making sure we have some communication nodes and that interworking operability going back and forth and versus the actual day, right? So that's going on here. So it's a real preparation. We look at that from the 7th and 8th, we look at it as being the response. The response is the potential that we might have to, because of the volume, because of requests of resources, constraints on the emergency services component, the vehicle and the pedestrian traffic might be a little bit affecting our response and our ability to maintain that. We might have to activate the Emergency Operations Center a little sooner so we can coordinate that and provide top cover and resources and allocation of that. As you know, April 8th is also the response. April 8th is what everyone is focusing on, is the total eclipse thing. We went further. We went from April 9, 10, and we looked at the recovery aspect. The recovery aspect is probably going to be worse, or it has a little bit more of an impact, because everything that came in here is now going to go north, and now it's going to travel back home through our city and whatnot, which can pose even a bigger problem, because now you have different cars that might have bypassed the city to go to another location. So because of that, the Emergency Operations Center will continue to be open to facilitate, coordinate informational sharing to achieve that thing on it. So we broke the incident into 3 manageable pieces so that we can have the effective response and organizational management that we could do.
Those reassurances you mentioned from the cell carriers, what do those involve exactly? Are they putting up new towers? Have there been adjustments in that regard, or is it just the existing infrastructure that they think will be able to handle communication during this event?
Depending upon the carrier, they go into a higher capacity load. They enable it somehow. There's some other carriers that are putting up additional towers. We have another carrier that can adjust the cell phone tower to hit a certain place, more better coverage, or orient the tower to absorb the additional flow and whatnot. So each one is a little different to what they're doing. But they all reassure them. How many times we ask them, and they're going to have people that are going to have representatives supposedly on site to constantly reevaluate, so we don't get the coverage map per se. They actually have the technicians, and then they can work the system through their thing. But that's what they reassure, that they're going to boost the capabilities of the actual sites. And what we have, according to them, is that we're even on a normal day, we're looking pretty good. So.
Mayor, from just the positive side, the economic side of it, it's got to be a great community for Buffalo, and they can maximize that with all these visitors as well to show them the clean city.
It can be a big economic boost with all the hotels being filled. Certainly there'll be an economic impact there. I know that restaurants, bars expect a lot of traffic. So businesses across the city of Buffalo, and particularly in downtown, are really looking forward to the event. They're doing their preparations as well to make sure that their businesses are operating as smoothly as possible for the event, so that they can maximize profitability. So this definitely can be a profitable event for businesses in the community.
Is there one area that you're more focused on, like the Outer Harbor, for instance, concerned about traffic getting in and out at all?
I'm going to have the police respond to the question of traffic.
Traffic definitely has the potential to be a large issue. That's why it's very important that we all understand that there is no bad spot in the city of Buffalo. The view on your front lawn will be just as good as the view here in Niagara Square, the view on Furman Boulevard, or anywhere in the county. Families have a great opportunity to stay home, stay safe, and enjoy this event from their own home.
And as you know, there are a lot of different facilities that have events. So Explore and More Museum will have an event. Sail and Field, the Bisons will have an event. Buffalo State University at Coyer Field will have an event. The Buffalo Zoo will have an event. The Buffalo Science Museum will have an event. So there will be a lot of events in a lot of different parts of the city. So traffic is a concern. And as Captain Rogowski said, we are right in the path. So if people don't want to go out, if you want to get the full experience and do that at home, you won't miss a thing by staying at home and watching the eclipse. Any other questions that you have before we conclude?
What are your viewing plans?
I will be viewing it wherever Michelle Brown says I'll be viewing it. And with that, we will conclude. Thank you very much.
Okay, folks, so hopefully you enjoyed that little selection of videos regarding the eclipse, and some of them regarding the eclipse and earthquakes. And we are going to wrap this up with one little article from slate.com that reads, "Is an earthquake like that?" This is the one that we've just experienced, the 4.8 on the Richter scale, on Friday morning of April the 5th, 2024. But they're saying, is an earthquake similar to that gonna hit NYC again? Is it related to the eclipse? And what were the best jokes? And there's a funny little picture there. I don't know if you can see that. It's moving, or at least it is to me. I guess they've added an effect there to sort of make the photo shake to simulate the earthquake, Lower Manhattan on Friday. Animation by Slate, photo by Spencer Platt of Getty Images. Surprise, surprise. But a magnitude 4.8 rattled the East Coast on Friday morning, as we all know. Yada yada, whoop-de-woo, array, tay. And the first question many New Yorkers had on their minds as their apartment wall shook was, what is my landlord up to this time? But before any official news reports, residents who felt the rumbling took to social media, and it was their group chats to confirm the tectonic event wasn't a figment of their imagination or a product of the quotidian NYC apartment woes, but the lack of initial information and the confusion were also compounded by late emergency alerts. And here is what we know so far. Where did it hit? According to the United States Geological Survey, the earthquake originated in northern New Jersey, striking at 10:23 a.m. 123. The tremors were felt in the surrounding tri-state area, including New York City and as far away as the coasts of Maryland, Baltimore, Maryland, where the bridge just collapsed. But no reports have been made yet of any injuries or substantial damages, although we have heard there are authorities and officials investigating bridges and tunnels for any damage that may have gone unnoticed that may result in further damage or disastrous situations occurring. But the article goes on to say, wild! Is this common on the East Coast? Earthquakes can happen at any time, anywhere, but they are relatively rare occurrence on the East Coast. A geology professor explained to NBC New York that the city rests upon a lazy plate, meaning that, I don't know why I found that funny, a lazy plate. Meaning that the slipping of tectonic plates that causes earthquakes happens less frequently. A regional branch of the Federal Emergency Management Agency, good old FEMA, never waste a good crisis, especially if they create them. But their agency in Colorado wrote on Twitter that New Jersey does have a known risk for earthquakes. Frosty Force. What is surprising about this latest earthquake is it's not necessarily where it took place. Geologist Chuck Verstraeten told the USA Today that it was rather its magnitude. This one was reported at 4.8 strength, and that was abnormal. He said earthquakes in this region are usually of a much lower magnitude, nothing we've ever seen before. Rare as fuck occurrences occurring around the world almost daily, almost hourly. But Buffalo was struck by a magnitude 3.8 quake in February of 2023, and that was the strongest recorded tectonic event in 40 years in the area. That was, of course, until today. A higher magnitude earthquakes have also occurred relatively recent in Delaware, where 4.1 magnitude event struck in 2017, and Virginia, which was rocked by a 5.8 quake in 2011. But the article goes on to say, okay, got it, but why now? Is the coming solar eclipse related to the earthquake? And doomsday conspiracies and in brackets jokes are swirling about the end times, and an unsurpassing reaction solution to any alarming natural disaster, but there is no confirmed link between earthquakes and solar eclipses. Don't forget to get some eclipse glasses for April the 8th in black brackets as a little reminder there. Okay, not an eclipse related phenomenon, but does climate change have anything to do with the earthquake? There's some links there to other articles that you can read if you want, but it is difficult to make casual interferences, but climate change and larger earthquakes, according to NASA interview with a geophysicist Paul Lundgren. I wonder if he's any relation to Dolph Lundgren, of course, was Ivan Drago in Rocky IV. But climate change has been associated with increased sea levels and flooding, which are variables that could cause fault stress. However, Lundgren said that the correlation between climate change caused stressors on earthquakes is seen with an extremely small earthquakes magnitudes below 0. I'm not sure if I read that right or not. I don't know. I was picturing the guy from Rocky reading that. But amid the questions and a little bit of panic, many East Coast residents spoke about not feeling prepared for an earthquake emergency in their households, and lists of recommended supplies circulated on social media. The consumerism factor. Be prepared by buying loads of stuff, spend money. But for New Yorkers, the earthquake renewed concern about the city's vulnerability to natural disasters, not to mention its vulnerability to radicalized Islamic jihadists armed with box cutters and limited flight knowledge. But the city adopted earthquake safety provisions in its building code nearly 30 years ago, but they did not apply to buildings that were constructed prior to 1995. For reference of the median age of buildings in New York City, I guess click the link there. But in 2006, a state report on the city's possible earthquake in future was even more dire, noting that lack of preparedness was the major problem. Perhaps the most vulnerable place in the nation right now is New York City, which turns out to be the third most seismically active region east of Mississippi, and geologists estimated a 20% to 40% chance of significant earthquakes in the next 50 years in New York. And they make special point to say that a major quake is also a real possibility. New Yorkers don't worry about earthquakes, but they should, particularly those of us who own a property there, or those New Yorkers that own property there. The article goes on to say, well, that's kind of scary, and continues by saying, yes, but of course the anxiety around possible infrastructure failures did not preclude users online from reacting to the Teutonic event with a flurry of cathartic memes. And when there are memes, guys, there are an agenda and jokes. And to me, there is nothing on this planet more infuriating than memes. And even STDs are more enjoyable than memes, because at least you have to have an enjoyable pastime in order to get the STD. But memes are the most lowest form of whatever form they're meant to be. They're mind control, they're mind manipulation, they're a very, very sinister device, and there is a reason that memes are everywhere. And when there are memes ready to go at any natural disaster or social event, it suggests to me that it was staged, and they had all the narratives and memetics ready to go to deliver further enforcement of that false flag event. But one person on X wrote, mimicking the voice of Sex and the City character Carrie Bradshaw. As a I don't know how she sounds. That's the horse-faced chick, right? The one, what's her name? Jessica Parker. That looks like a horse. But I don't know her voice, so I'm just going to read it in the X person's voice, how I imagine it to. As a 4.7 magnitude earthquake hit Manhattan, I couldn't help but wonder, was my relationship with Big structurally strong enough to withstand the impact? Oh, that is hilarious. I'm surprised I can contain my laughter. But another joked about the description of the earthquake reflecting New Yorkers' flippance to their neighbors across the Hudson. West of Manhattan is the New Yorkist a possible way to refer to New Jersey. I guess you need to be a bit localized to understand what that joke was about. Does anyone have eyes on Jamie Lee Curtis and Lindsay Lohan? And there is, I just want to go through the screen, find Roy Wood Jr., smash his head upon the floor over and over and over and over and over again until a passerby says, stop, stop, stop. He's already dead. Only cunts and clueless fucking individuals share memes and think they are being informative, witty, and charismatic. You're being a fucking clone. You're a brain-dead sheep that fucking followed something for fucking dopamine rewards. Fuck you with your fucking shit cunting fucking meme, Roy Jr. fucking shit cunt blue tick. Fuck your meme. I fucking hate memes. But that gets to the end of the article. No, it doesn't. There's another meme of Wendy Williams, a staged event when she fainted on. Sorry guys, I do get very, very angry regarding memes. Please don't ever share a meme in front of me, or ever share a meme in my general direction if you can help it. But there's something to do with Oprah Winfrey. And look, there you go. There's a t-shirt. This is the fastest merch turnaround I've ever seen in my life. And I've survived the 2024 Eclipse t-shirts being advertised. But I've always said New York City is the San Andreas of America. I believe that's the mayor of New York City. Eric Adams about to send 500,000 cops to the Earth core. But back to the article, jokes aside, although let me know if you found any one of those remotely funny. But across the country, Los Angelinos and other West Coasters who routinely experience this scale of earthquake are yawning at news of their culture being appropriated. One unimpressed person, Riley, wrote, I was born in Los Angeles on the morning of an earthquake many, many years ago. A 4.8 earthquake in LA would barely raise an eyebrow. Yeah, so there you go, guys, and let's try and not see the meme again. There we go, we fast-tracked ourselves past the meme. But look into my research and work on memetics, military memetics, memetic warfare. If you don't know about memes, don't know their purpose, don't know what they're for, it isn't to make people laugh and have a good time and just a quirky little fun thing to pass the days on social media. They are a militarized, weaponized mind control system of manipulation and deceptive measures. They are used to psychologically evaluate the user that shares memes. As I said, guys, I have got this all documented with all the facts, all the information to support what I am telling you. Stop using memes. Where there's a meme, there is an agenda, there is a narrative. But that is it, folks. I am wrapping this EclipseQuake Nobody Watches RD video up. Hopefully you were one of the nobodies that did watch this video. Hopefully you are one of the nobodies that also paid attention and didn't just use my channel as a platform to come and chat amongst yourselves and pay little to no attention to the creator, and when the stream ends, go and find another stream where you can go and say hello to other people all over and over again. And I know there are people that do that, and you may be one of the ones that I'm referring to, but if you're not, if it don't fly, then it don't apply, or let it fly if it don't apply, something along those lines. And you know what I'm getting at, folks. But that is it. That is all for now. RD is about to sign out, but before RD does sign out, I will tell you folks to take care, probably more than ever. We are seemingly in the midst, at time of recording, of an earthquake event unfolding, and we've still got the eclipse to get through on Monday, the 8th of April, which is 3.5 days away at time of recording. Are we experiencing our last 4 days on Earth, or are we being Y2K'd on a much larger scale? You let me know your thoughts and opinions in the comments or in the live chat if you are watching this as a premiere. But all that is left for me to say, folks, is take care until next time. May the force be with us all, and let's all try to be as excellent to one another as we possibly can. So we will see you in the next time, sometime soon.
Excitement is building for Monday's solar eclipse, and as you probably know, you're not supposed to look directly at it without proper glasses. But buyer beware. There are some specs out there that don't protect your eyes. Les Trent caught a guy selling them online.
Here comes the sun. Eclipse mania is sweeping the country. Come Monday, millions of us will be gazing up to catch a glimpse of the once-in-a-lifetime event.
We are just days away from that total solar eclipse.
But if you want to see it safely, you better have a pair of these solar eclipse glasses.
We've gone through millions of glasses.
Manufacturer Mark Margolis showed Jim Murray what his eclipse certified glasses look like.
If you look at the sun without approved glasses, what can happen?
Basically, it can burn your retinas.
Do you worry at all about counterfeit glasses?
We are concerned because there has been a flood of counterfeit and copies of glasses that have hit the market.
Could your glasses be counterfeit? We found this ad on Craigslist offering 500 pairs of glasses for just $100. You can watch the total solar eclipse with absolute confidence in your eye safety, the ad claims. The ad features pictures of the glasses with the words NASA approved on them. The agency told us they do not approve any particular brand of solar viewers. So, who's behind the ad?
How are you? Thanks, how good? Good to see you.
An Inside Edition producer went undercover to meet up with the guy selling all those glasses. Turns out he's a financial manager based in Manhattan.
Awesome, are these them? Yes, these are.
He even showed us this display case, which has a NASA logo.
Where do you get these?
A buddy of mine, wholesale, he's selling these all over the country. He's probably sold like a container full from China.
Oh my God. And they're real, right? They work?
Yeah, they've been tested by 2 different certifications in China.
But then he admits this.
Up here it says, official glasses. There's nothing official about it.
It was time to make my presence known. Are these legitimate?
We're out of here.
He didn't stick around. Why won't you talk to us if these are legitimate, sir? He even left his bag. So we shipped them to Dr. Ralph Chu in Toronto. He's known as the world's leading expert on eclipse eye safety. So I want to ask you about these, which we purchased on the streets of New York City. Can you tell us whether or not they are safe to view the eclipse?
I'm really concerned about it. I'm not sure that it is truly safe. People are trying to make a buck these days. If you have any doubts, don't use it.
The glasses the guy was selling say NASA approved on the side, but NASA tells us they do not approve any solar viewers. For more tips on how to view the eclipse safely, come to InsideEdition.com.
My eyes, the goggles do nothing. Ah.
Sit, Ubu, sit. Good dog.